Hi everybody, how's it going? My name's James, founder of Travel-Lingual.com. Today I'm going to be talking you through my 4 weeks in Vietnam. Now, a lot of people when they go to Vietnam, they choose to start at the north and make their way further south. I actually did it the other way around. I started in Ho Chi Minh and made my way up to the capital, Hanoi. And whilst Ho Chi Minh isn't, in my opinion, one of the most beautiful cities, I actually really enjoyed the hustle and bustle. It was also my first time in Southeast Asia. It was quite exciting for me to be in Vietnam and in that region of the world for the first time. I'd never actually seen the hustle and bustle and the smells and the chaos that come with Southeast Asia. I actually spent 2 nights in Ho Chi Minh. I think that is the minimum requirement upon arrival just in order to acclimatise if you've come from a long haul flight. Now, Ho Chi Minh is a great place to use as a hub if you're interested in exploring the south of Vietnam, going to see the Mekong Delta and heading further south from the city. I didn't actually do that. I chose to put more time in seeing the centre and the north of the country. After Ho Chi Minh, I went to Hoi An. Now, Hoi An is an incredible place and has to be one of the most special places that I've ever visited. It's still a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's a great place to take cooking classes, find out more about Vietnamese cuisine in that part of the country. I also really liked the beaches around Hoi An. A lot of people, when they talk about Southeast Asian beaches, you think mostly of the islands in southern Thailand. I actually thought the beaches in Vietnam were pretty special as well. When you go to Hoi An, you'll need to hire scooters. This is really easy. It's also cheap. Most hotels and hostels have their own that they can rent to you, but there are also shops throughout the town where you'll be able to hire your scooters. What I do recommend doing in Hoi An is going down to the beach for sunset. There's a market that's definitely worth visiting. You can go and get a tailor-made suit and try local Vietnamese cuisine. And Hoi An is actually a really special place to visit. You can really see a mix of colonial heritage, and Vietnam as a country has a real mix of cultures in pretty much everything that you do and see and taste. Chinese shop houses, colourful French colonial buildings, Japanese influence as well with the pagoda bridges. After Hoi An, I went to a place called Hue. Most people do both of these cities together because they are in very close proximity. You can also take the famous Hai Van Pass when you're going between Hoi An and Hue. The Hai Van Pass, the long road between Hoi An and Hue, is pretty special and provides sensational views. If you're a bit nervous about driving for pretty obvious reasons, then I recommend hiring a Jeep, going on one of the local tours, or taking quad bikes. All of these are an option when going between these two places. The focus around this city will always be on the Forbidden City, the tombs, and close proximity. That wasn't my favourite aspect of Hue. I actually really enjoyed the food there. I found some incredible restaurants. Com Hen restaurant, and there's one called Hang Mi Mi as well. So if you're a foodie, do some research on food. After Hue, I flew up to Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam. Hanoi was probably my favourite city and is my favourite city in Southeast Asia. I ended up spending 3 or 4 more days there than I actually had anticipated. Hanoi is best known for its centuries-old architecture and its rich culture with Southeast Asian, Chinese and French influences, and all of these are very apparent in pretty much everywhere that you go. What I loved so much about Vietnam was the contrast between the north and the south. There's a real difference between Ho Chi Minh and Hanoi, and if you're fortunate enough to manage to go to both places, then you really do pick up on that. The way of life, the food is incredibly different in the north of the country. Now, Ho Chi Minh is still the food capital of Vietnam, and it's said that there's a lot more variation in the south of Vietnam. I actually loved all of the food that I tried across the country, but for me, Hanoi was pretty special. Pho, which is the national dish, is a rice noodle soup served with herbs and meat and vegetables of your choice in many cases, is actually king in Hanoi, so make sure you try this when you go to Hanoi. Now, Hanoi, despite being a fantastic place to visit and an incredible city, is still a hub because essentially there are many other places that you can visit and use Hanoi as a base, which is exactly what I did. From Hanoi, you can go to Cat Ba Island. Now, to get from Hanoi to Cat Ba Island, you have to take a minibus and then you take a ferry. The journey time for this is around 4 hours. I stayed at Central Backpackers Hostel. It's everything you might expect in many ways, but it is actually a fantastic place to stay. Now, it's not actually in a central location, so you do need to hire a scooter. The best thing to do in Cat Ba Island is to explore. Hop on a scooter, drive around the island. The locals are really friendly. We actually ended up joining some locals for a game of volleyball. After Cat Ba Island, I went back to Hanoi, and then what was really just the most incredible place, Sapa. Now, Sapa actually sits over 10,000 feet above sea level. Now, what I found really interesting about Sapa is the people that live there that actually give you the tours and tell you about this town, just way up in the hills. It's actually inhabited dominated by the Hmong community, and they are a community in Vietnam that make up about 1% of the population. Many of them don't actually speak Vietnamese, they have their own native language. Again, you probably need to hire a scooter if you want to go from any of the homestays and up to the centre of the town. Now, Sapa as a town itself is actually quite small, there's not a great deal to do when you're in the centre, so the best thing to do is to hire scooters and drive off to any of the many waterfalls around. I went to Silver Waterfall, it's about an hour away by scooter, with some really special views on the drive back as well. Now, after returning to Hanoi, I spent a few more days in the city before departing. So after almost a month in Vietnam, my time had come to an end. I will 100% go back to Vietnam as soon as I'm able to. For me, Vietnam remains my favourite country in Southeast Asia, probably one of my favourite countries in the world, and I cannot recommend it enough.